I'm here today to talk about the science behind success, which I think is one of the best kept secrets in our quest for not only business success, but success in all areas of our lives. And that is, quite simply, frequency. It is the frequency of our thoughts, our feelings, and our words that cause whatever we're thinking of to happen. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. What do you think is going on when you think of someone and then the phone rings and it's that person? What's up with that? Some people call it coincidence. I call it frequency, and science supports it. Or how about this? You're cleaning off your desk one night, and you're going through all your business cards, and you come across a business card with a picture of a friend you haven't seen in months or maybe even years. And then the next day, you bump into them at Starbucks. Coincidence? Some people may think it's coincidence, but I say it's frequency, and science supports it. So I'm here today. My intention for being here today is to raise your awareness that your thoughts and your feelings and your words are all frequency that are impacting the quantum field, causing whatever you're thinking, feeling, and speaking about to happen. Now, I've done a great deal of research on this, scientific research on this, especially with the onset of quantum physics in the past 20 years. And I'm not going to bore you with too much science today, but I do want to give you some very important facts that will substantiate what I'm saying. And we're going to begin with our beloved Uncle Albert as an Einstein. And he says, everything is energy. That's all there is to it. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. So let's talk about that for a moment. If everything is energy, everything is energy. This table is energy. And this table is energy that's vibrating at such a slow, low frequency that we can see it and we can feel it. Our bodies are vibrating at a quicker frequency, so they're less dense. And everything that we see in the material world, plants and animals, are all frequency, vibrating, all energy, vibrating at a frequency that determines its density. And our thoughts, our feelings, and our words, we don't see them. They're invisible. But they're impacting the quantum field all the time, causing what we're thinking, feeling, and speaking to happen. So what exactly is frequency? Let's look at frequency. Frequency is the rate of occurrence of anything. Like, how many times do we go to the gym every week? Or how much time do we watch television every day? Or brushing our teeth? This is frequency, the rate of occurrence of anything. There's another definition of frequency that's more scientific, and this is the number of waves that passed through a specific point in a certain period of time, and it looks like this. You can see them moving. Science also tells us this, that positive thoughts equal a high frequency, and negative thoughts equal a low frequency. So, how many of you like Trader Joe's? How many of you are fans of Trader Joe's? Yeah, quite a few in this room are. Yeah. Trader Joe's, I love Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is one of my favorite stores. I shop there all the time. I'm there at least a couple of times a week. I love going there. I walk in and I feel good when I'm in there. The vibe is good. The employees are happy. They just don't, if you ask them a question on where something is, they just don't say it's in such and such an aisle. They practically take you by the hand and they bring you over to it. And the customers are happy. And the food, it may not be farmer's market, but it's good. It's high quality. I want to tell you a story. Last summer, I had a luncheon, and I forgot a couple of very important items So I jumped in my car, and I zoomed to Trader Joe's. I went in the store, I bought the items, and I'm at the checkout, and I looked in my purse, and my wallet wasn't there. And in my mind's eye, I saw the wallet sitting on my desk at home when I had been paying bills that day. So I said to the cashier, gosh, I really need these items. Do you think that I can take them now and then come back later with the money? And he said, hold on a second. So he called over the manager of the store, Dave, and I explained my situation to Dave, my dilemma. He didn't even say a word to me. He reached into his pocket, he pulled out his wallet, he took out his credit card, and he paid my bill. Who does that? You're not going to find it at the large grocery store chains. So Trader Joe's is the perfect example of a conscious corporation, what I call a conscious corporation. And according to John Mackey, who is the author of Conscious Capitalism, a conscious corporation provides great value for all the stakeholders. The customers, the employees, the suppliers, the investors, society, and the environment. And you know, there are quite a few conscious corporations out there already. And here's a list of them. And you recognize them. And you know what they all have in common? They provide great value for their stakeholders, and their profits are soaring, every one of them. So how many of you would like to have soaring profits? Another way of looking at this is programming. The heads of these corporations knew that if they had positivity, positive thinking, philosophy that supported the employee. You know, making good money was very important. And Trader Joe's pays quite well, as I understand, but they pay well, they provide good benefits for their employees, and they have wonderful mission statements. I encourage you to go online and check out Trader Joe's mission statement. It's rather long, which is why I didn't put it here, but check it out and look at the mission statements of any of these conscious corporations, and I think you'll be very impressed with what they have to share. So programming, let's talk about that for a little bit. How many of you think that programming is important? How many of you believe that we have subconscious programming that doesn't serve us? We have positive programming, which is what conscious corporations do, but we also have negative programming. So I want to share a story with you about some negative programming that I endured in my life that changed my life. When I was 37 years old in 1983, I was executive director of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ventura County, California. And I'm sure you're familiar with this program. It serves kids from single-parent families and helps to mitigate the stress of being in a single-parent family without both parents. Well, I had this idea, and it became actually an obsession, that I wanted to keep our kids safe from pedophiles, because pedophiles are attracted to programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters, Scouts, Girls and Boys Clubs, because they can be alone with the children. So to this end, I hired a caseworker. Her name was Sandy, and she had just graduated with her MSW, and she had a concentration in molestation prevention. So the two of us developed this great program for our kids, for the bigs, as well as for the parents. And about 6 months into her tenure with me, we were making matches. I always sat in with all my staff to make the matches because I wanted to know who was matched with whom. And she said she was going to match this little girl, Janie, and she said, I'm not going to match Janie today because she's going to spend the summer with her dad, and the match would be much better served in September. So I said, fine. So flash forward to September, and we're making the matches. And Sandy says, Patricia, I have to tell you that I think Janie was molested by her father or someone in her father's house over the summer. I said, what? And just because you said that, I have to report it to Protective Services. What do you base that allegation on? And she said, in June, this little girl had the most beautiful eyelashes you ever saw, long and thick. And yesterday, there wasn't one in her head, not one in her eyelid. They were completely bald. Well, I sat back in my chair, and I'm sure all the color drained from my face. I hurriedly excused myself, and I rushed to the bathroom, and I held on to the sink, and I looked wide-eyed into the mirror, uncertain whether I was going to pass out or throw up. Because you see, for 30 years, I've been pulling up my eyelashes, and I never knew why. I never knew why. So as a little girl, at age 6, when I started doing this was my ritual. I spent a lot of time in my bathroom. And I would wedge a little stool between the toilet and the sink. And I would stand on this stool and I would pull the medicine cabinet close so I could see. And then with some tweezers that I snuck from my mom's bathroom, I would execute the daily task of pulling up my eyelashes one at a time. And as they began to grow in, as long as I could grab the end of it with the tweezers, I would pull it out. And you know, I got this perverse pleasure from seeing the dark, wet root against the harsh bathroom light. And then I would squish it up against the bathroom wall with all the other aborted eyelashes that would never be, and then wipe them away with one swipe of my finger. In time, I didn't even need a mirror or tweezers. I did it with my fingernails. And I did it when people weren't looking, but in time, I didn't even care if they were looking. I did it anyway. My family just thought it was some form of rare alopecia of the eyelids. But I knew that they weren't falling out. I was pulling them out. And I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It was a ritual every day, just like brushing my teeth. So here I am, 30 years later, with my staff. And I hear this. And I was blown away. So when I pulled myself together, I called my therapist right away and I made an appointment. And she was very surprised because she never took me as a molest victim. But I went to see her shortly after that. And she was a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and she hypnotized me. And she had prefaced my visit with her saying, I want you to think of all the men in your life, your father, your brothers. And when I thought of that, it was like, oh no, it could never happen, you know? But she said, think about it. So she hypnotized me, and she said, when we're going to go down an elevator to the age that you think this happened, and when those elevator doors open, you're just going to tell me, you're just going to watch. You're just going to watch one, like you're watching a movie, one frame after another. And what I saw was myself as a little girl, about age 6. And in this scene, I was wearing a little camel hair coat and a little tam beret, and knee socks and saddle shoes. Adorable. and I was walking up toward my elementary school, which was on the right side of the street, Lincoln Street, and on the left side of the street was the church I went to, St. Maurice Church, where I went to catechism every week. And in this experience, the next frame was me standing in the hallway of the school. The auditorium was straight ahead, the principal's office was to the right, and the library was to the left. And there was a man standing next to me, and he was wearing a gray uniform, and he had gray at the temples. He was probably in his 40s, and he was leaning on this big floppy broom. You know those big, huge, wide brooms that they used to clean the hallways in schools? He was leaning on that, and he was talking very sweetly to me, and he was saying, I have a present for you. I have something for you, and I want you to come after school to my office. Well, his office was the furnace room in the basement of the school, across from the gymnasium and down from the girls' lavatory. And I went, and I saw in this therapy session everything that happened to me. And I'm not going to go into the details, but it was graphic. There I am, 6 years old. Can you imagine a little girl at 6 years old having that experience? It was so traumatic for me. Why? Because I was very, very involved in Catholicism at the time. I went to catechism every week and Sunday school after church. And the things that the nuns harped on over and over again were mortal sins. You can't commit a mortal sin. If you commit a mortal sin, and you die, you burn in hell forever. But the worst punishment, they stressed, the worst punishment was not burning in hell forever, is that God would never love you again. And that was the nail in my coffin, so to speak. I didn't tell anyone. Who was I going to tell? This was the 50s. Usually when kids did something wrong in the 50s or something happened, the parents really didn't believe them. They believed the teacher or the priest or the nun or whatever. So I didn't even think of telling my parents. And I just buried it very deep within me, and it resulted in this PTSD behavior called trichotillomania, which I described to you a little earlier. My therapist said, don't ever doubt that this happened to you, and now it's time to heal it. And that was a turning point for me. That was a turning point where I knew that I could make different choices and move my life in a different direction. About a year later, my mom died, and after she died, I was talking to my aunt, and I shared with my aunt what I never shared with my mom. I shared with her about my molestation. And my aunt said, you know, Trishy, that's what she called me, your mother was molested by a priest when she was 12 years old. And I was raped by a relative when I was 16. And she went on, there was more to tell. Apparently, sexual abuse was in my female lineage. And when I heard this, I made the decision right there and then that not only would I heal it for myself, but I would heal it for all the women in my lineage. And not only that, I would heal it for all women everywhere. You know, the Me Too movement is here. Every night we listen to the news and we hear something new. The Me Too movement is here, and it's on the rise. So after this, I got very much involved in my personal growth. And the direction I went in was what I shared with you earlier, this talk about Einstein and energy, and everything is energy, and we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're creating our reality all the time. And I thought, well, now I'm consciously creating my reality. If I'm creating my reality, then I'm going to create a positive reality. I'm going to create a great life now. So I started a television show called The Paradigm Shift. And a paradigm is a worldview. It's something that everyone in the world subscribes to. For example, before Columbus discovered that the world was round, the paradigm of the day was that the world was flat. Before Galileo discovered that the planets revolved around the sun and not around the Earth, everyone thought that the Earth was the center of the solar system. So the paradigm that I'm talking about in my show is this paradigm shift, and I call it the mother of all paradigm shifts. And this is that we're energy beings in physical form. We're creating our reality. Many metaphysicians today refer to it as us moving from Homo sapiens sapien, which is what an anthropologist would tell you we are now, to what's called Homo noeticus, or Homo universalis, the universal human, the human that understands the power that we have, an innate power that we have as energy beings in physical form, spiritual beings having a human experience. So I was very interested particularly in the scientific foundation of this. I got interested in quantum physics. And I started interviewing scientists and PhDs and MDs and people that were in this conversation expressing it through their own expertise, their own body of work. And one such person, which is one of my favorite, is Dr. Bruce Lipton. And on my show, he said this: once we are aware that we are fully responsible for creating our reality, we are fully responsible for creating our reality. Attention plus intention equals creation. Another scientist that I loved interviewing is Dr. Joe Dispenza, neuroscientist, written many books, and has actually proven how the brain changes when we shift from negative to positive thinking. And he says, and I love this, there's cause and effect, and there's causing effect. Would you rather be dealing with cause and effect in your life all the time? Or would you accept responsibility for your life and be causing effect? So what I'm talking about here, people, is a new paradigm. A new paradigm. Knowing that we are creators of our reality. Knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. You know, if 20 years ago anyone had told us that we would be able to access all the literature in the world with a click of a screen in our hand, they would have thought we were insane. That's how quickly a paradigm can shift. 20 years from now, people will be in this conversation, if you're not already there. So bringing this all the way back to this idea of success in business, success in your personal life, right? You have it in the palm of your hand. You can do it. You can change your life by changing your thoughts. And you know what? As each of us changes our lives, our thoughts, to create lives that are a reflection of our greatest heart's desires, bringing in the right partner, having great relationships, having a wonderful business, being successful in your business, getting promotions, having fabulous employees, have soaring profits. You can have all of that. You know, I'm not a scientist in an academic sense. I'm not. It's been an interest of mine that supported my work. But I am a scientist in my own life laboratory. I do the work. And I do it every single day. And, and I'm here to say that it works, because here I am, right now, standing before you, sharing my passion. What I came here to do in this lifetime is to inspire you to know that you can change your life in the most positive direction that you can imagine. And Einstein says imagination is greater than knowledge. So this is my paradigm shift. What's yours? Do you want to attract more competent employees? Do you want better relationships with your staff? How about your personal life? Would you like to make changes there? Well, you can do it. You have the power to do it. And if you need some help, I would be happy to assist you with a program that I've developed where I go into much more detail on this and how we actually can apply this practically in our lives every day. So thank you very much for listening today, and I hope that you will take what I have to share to heart.